The alarm pierced through Emma Rodriguez's dreams at 4:30 a.m., dragging her back to the reality of her cramped Brooklyn studio. She silenced it with practiced efficiency, her body moving on autopilot through the morning routine she'd perfected over 8 years of early flights. The pre-dawn darkness outside her window was familiar, comforting even. This was her life. Predictable, safe, contained. She showered quickly, letting the hot water chase away the last remnants of sleep. In the mirror, she assessed herself with the critical eye of someone who knew appearance mattered in her profession. At 32, she still looked young enough to be approachable, professional enough to command respect. Dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun, minimal makeup, the navy blue uniform that had become her second skin. The subway ride to JFK was quiet at this hour, just her and the other early shift workers, all of them trapped in their own bubbles of exhaustion and caffeine dependency. Emma sipped her coffee and watched the city blur past, thinking about nothing in particular. That was the beauty of routine. It required no thought, no decisions, no risk. She'd chosen this life deliberately. 8 years ago, she'd been someone else, someone trapped in a relationship that had slowly strangled who she was. The day she'd finally left, she'd walked into an airline recruitment office and never looked back. Flying meant freedom, meant never staying in one place long enough for anything, or anyone, to pin her down. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd escaped one cage by choosing another, albeit a prettier one with better views. JFK at dawn was a beast waking up, sluggish but purposeful. Emma badged through security and made her way to the crew briefing room, nodding at familiar faces. The American Airlines hub was her home base, and after 8 years, she knew every gate, every shortcut, every good coffee spot. "Morning, Emma." Jessica Chen bounced over, impossibly cheerful for 5:45 a.m. At 26, Jessica still had that fresh enthusiasm that Emma vaguely remembered having once. "We're together on the Miami run today." "Morning, Jess." Emma managed a smile. She liked Jessica, even if her energy levels were occasionally exhausting. The briefing was routine. Flight AA 2847, JFK to Miami International, departure 7:30 a.m., arrival 10:47 a.m. Captain Harris, a silver-haired veteran with 30 years in the cockpit, ran through the weather, clear skies, smooth flying, the passenger manifest, full flight first class at capacity, and the usual safety protocols. Emma had heard it all 1,000 times, but she listened anyway. Complacency killed in this job. "First class is yours, Emma." Marcus Thompson, the senior flight attendant, assigned with his usual efficiency. "Jessica, you take the front of economy. I'll handle the back." Emma nodded. First class was her preference. Fewer passengers, usually less drama, better tips. She gathered her materials and headed to the gate, where the aircraft waited like a silver bird preparing for flight. The Boeing 737 was clean, well-maintained, familiar. Emma walked the first-class cabin, checking every detail with practiced precision. 8 rows, 16 seats, all the amenities that made wealthy passengers feel their extra money was well spent. She adjusted a crooked headrest in 5B, straightened the magazines, ensured the overhead bins were secure. Boarding began at 7 a.m. Emma positioned herself at the entrance, greeting each first-class passenger with the same warm, professional smile that had become as much a part of her uniform as the navy blazer. "Good morning. Welcome aboard." "Good morning. Welcome aboard." "Good morning. Welcome aboard." The passengers blurred together. Businessmen in suits, a couple heading to Miami for vacation, an elderly woman traveling alone to visit her daughter. Emma registered them all, her trained eye cataloging details automatically: who might need extra attention, who would be demanding, who would sleep through the flight. Then he boarded. Seat 7A, a window seat in the 3rd row. He was late 40s, maybe early 50s, with the kind of face that was hard to read. Not handsome exactly, but striking. Sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light, and an air of stillness that was unusual in the chaos of boarding. His suit was expensive but understated, charcoal gray with a subtle pinstripe. No tie, no wedding ring. "Good morning. Welcome aboard," Emma said, her smile automatic. He nodded once, a minimal acknowledgement, and moved past her. His gait was measured, economical. He carried only a leather messenger bag, worn but quality. As he settled into 7A, Emma noticed his hands. They were surprisingly rough, calloused, at odds with the expensive suit and refined bearing. Something about him triggered her professional instincts, the ones that had kept her safe and successful for 8 years. He wasn't threatening exactly, but he was present, aware, like someone who missed nothing. She shook off the feeling. In this job, you learned not to read too much into passengers. Everyone had their stories, their secrets, their reasons for traveling. It wasn't her business to know them. The rest of boarding proceeded smoothly. By 7:25, everyone was seated, overhead bins secured, safety demonstration complete. Captain Harris's voice crackled over the intercom with the usual pre-flight announcements, and at exactly 7:30 they pushed back from the gate. Emma loved takeoff, that moment when the engines roared and the aircraft lifted, defying gravity through sheer force and engineering. No matter how many times she experienced it, there was still something magical about leaving the ground behind. They reached cruising altitude over Pennsylvania, and Emma began the beverage service. First-class passengers got the full treatment: warm towels, champagne or orange juice, a selection of snacks. She moved through the cabin with practiced efficiency, remembering preferences, anticipating needs before they were voiced. The man in 7A ordered coffee, black, and declined the snacks. He'd pulled out a book, Crime and Punishment, she noticed, the spine well worn. He read with complete focus, occasionally making notes in the margin. Emma found herself curious about him, which was unusual. She'd long ago trained herself not to be curious about passengers. Over Virginia, the plane hit unexpected turbulence. Not severe, but enough to make the cabin shake and passengers gasp. The seatbelt sign chimed on, and Captain Harris's calm voice advised everyone to remain seated. Emma was in the aisle when it hit. She grabbed the nearest seat back to steady herself, her professional training kicking in immediately. "Everything's fine. Just a little rough air," she assured the passengers with a confidence she didn't entirely feel. The elderly woman in 8B wasn't handling it well. She'd gripped her armrests so hard her knuckles were white, and when the plane jolted again, she cried out. The hot coffee she'd been holding went flying, splashing across her lap and the seat beside her. Emma moved immediately. "It's okay, ma'am, you're safe, let me help you." She grabbed napkins, helped the woman dab at her dress, all while keeping up a steady stream of reassuring words. The turbulence continued, but Emma's focus was entirely on her passenger, on making her feel safe and cared for. In her peripheral vision, she saw something fall from seat 7A, a small orange bottle, the kind that held prescription medication. It rolled down the aisle, stopping near her feet. The man in 7A had his eyes closed, hands gripping the armrests, his face pale. For the first time since boarding, he looked vulnerable. Emma retrieved the bottle quickly, glancing at the label, metoprolol, a heart medication. The name on the prescription read, Anton Volkov. She moved to his seat, keeping her voice low. "Sir, I believe you dropped this." His eyes opened, dark, intense, assessing. For a moment he just looked at her, and Emma felt that strange awareness again, like she was being catalogued and filed away in some internal database. Then he took the bottle, his fingers brushing hers briefly. "Thank you," he said. His voice was deep, accented. Eastern European, she thought. Russian, maybe. "You are kind." Emma smiled. "Just doing my job. Are you feeling all right?" "Yes, thank you." He pocketed the medication and returned to his book. The moment of vulnerability gone as quickly as it had appeared. The turbulence eased, and Emma returned to her duties. But she found her gaze returning to seat 7A throughout the flight. There was something about him, about Anton Volkov, that she couldn't quite dismiss. The way he held himself, the way his eyes constantly tracked the cabin even while appearing to read, the expensive suit and the calloused hands. The heart medication for a man who looked physically fit. Jessica noticed during a break in the galley. "You okay? You seem distracted." "Just tired," Emma lied. "Early morning. That guy in 7A is interesting, right? Super quiet but intense. Marcus said he thought he recognized him from somewhere but couldn't place it." Emma's instincts prickled again. "Really?" "Yeah. Probably just has one of those faces." Jessica shrugged and returned to the cabin. But Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. She began noticing other things. 2 men in economy, seats 23C and 24D, who kept looking toward first class. A woman in 5B who seemed to be watching 7A when she thought no one was paying attention. Small things, subtle things, but they added up to a pattern that made Emma uneasy. She told herself she was being paranoid. This was just another flight, just another group of passengers with their own private dramas and concerns. Nothing unusual, nothing dangerous. Over South Carolina, Captain Harris announced their descent into Miami. The Florida coastline appeared below them, emerald water and white sand beaches glittering in the morning sun. Emma went through her landing preparations mechanically, collecting trash, checking seatbelts, securing the cabin. Anton Volkov remained motionless in 7A, his book closed now, his gaze fixed on something out the window, or perhaps on nothing at all. Emma passed him during her final cabin check and felt his awareness track her, even though he didn't turn his head. They landed smoothly at 10:43 a.m., 4 minutes ahead of schedule. The captain's voice thanked everyone for flying American, and the cabin erupted in the usual chaos of passengers gathering belongings, checking phones, preparing to rush off the plane as if their lives depended on those extra 30 seconds. Emma positioned herself at the exit, thanking each passenger as they deplaned. "Thank you for flying with us. Enjoy Miami. Have a wonderful day." The two men from economy left quickly, not meeting her eyes. The woman from 5B gave her a tight smile and hurried past. Row by row, the cabin emptied. Anton Volkov waited until nearly everyone had gone. He stood finally, retrieving his messenger bag with the same economical movements he'd used boarding. He approached Emma, and she felt her heart rate increase inexplicably. "Miss Rodriguez," he said, reading her name tag. His dark eyes held hers. "Thank you for your kindness today." "You're welcome, Mr. Volkov. I hope you—" "That small kindness you showed me," he interrupted, his voice low and urgent. "Retrieving my medicine. You may have just saved the life of a very dangerous man." Emma's smile froze. What?" He glanced toward the empty cabin, then back at her. "Those two men in economy. They were waiting for me to take that medication. It was poisoned. They switched the bottles in the terminal. You handed me the real one that had fallen." Her mind reeled. This had to be some kind of joke. "Sir, I don't—" "You saved the Mafia Boss, Miss Rodriguez." His face was completely serious, no trace of humor or deception. "And now, whether you want to be or not, you're involved." Emma couldn't breathe. The cabin suddenly felt very small, very confined. This couldn't be real. This was just another routine flight, just another Tuesday morning, just another— "When we land, when you leave this aircraft, stay close to me. They won't try anything with witnesses around, but you've been seen helping me. They'll consider you a liability now." This isn't— I'm just a flight attendant." "I know." His expression softened slightly, almost sympathetic. "And I'm sorry. But you were kind to the wrong person at the wrong time. Sometimes that's all it takes to change everything." He moved toward the exit, then paused, looking back at her. 5 minutes, Miss Rodriguez. Take 5 minutes to convince yourself I'm crazy, that this is all some elaborate prank. Then look around the terminal carefully. See if those two men are watching you. See if you feel safe walking to your car alone." Then he was gone, disappearing into the jetway, leaving Emma frozen in the empty first-class cabin with her world crumbling around her. Outside, Miami waited, bright and hot and suddenly full of threats she'd never imagined. Everything had changed. She just didn't know how much yet. Emma stood frozen in the empty first-class cabin, her mind racing in circles that led nowhere. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, indifferent to the earthquake that had just shattered her carefully constructed life. Through the windows, she could see the Miami terminal. Normal, mundane, filled with normal people doing normal things. "You saved the Mafia Boss." The words echoed in her head, absurd and terrifying in equal measure. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. She was a flight attendant from Brooklyn who paid her bills on time and hadn't gotten a parking ticket in 3 years. Mafia bosses were movie characters, not passengers in seat 7A who read Dostoevsky and took heart medication. "Emma?" Jessica's voice cut through her paralysis. "You coming? Marcus is finishing the back. We need to do the cabin check together." Emma forced herself to move, to function. "Yeah, sorry. Just headache." They walked through the cabin methodically, checking seat pockets, overhead bins, lavatories. All the while, Emma's hands moved automatically while her mind replayed every interaction with Anton Volkov, the way he'd watched the cabin, those rough, calloused hands that didn't match his refined appearance, the two men in economy who'd kept glancing toward first class. Had she really seen concern in their eyes? Or was she retrofitting details now, seeing patterns that didn't exist because a stranger had planted a seed of paranoia? You sure you're okay? Jessica studied her with genuine concern. You look pale. I'm fine, just tired. Early morning. Marcus joined them, already reviewing the next flight assignment on his tablet. Good flight, everyone. Emma, you're off rotation until Thursday, right? Right. Her voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Lucky you. Enjoy Miami if you're staying, or get some rest if you're heading back. Marcus smiled, oblivious to the fact that Emma's entire world had just tilted on its axis. See you both Thursday. The crew dispersed. Jessica headed toward baggage claim, chattering about meeting friends in South Beach. Marcus disappeared toward the crew lounge, and Emma stood in the terminal, paralyzed by indecision. 5 minutes, Anton Volkov had said. 5 minutes to convince herself he was crazy. The terminal stretched before her, bright and clean, filled with travelers dragging suitcases, families reuniting, business people rushing to their next connection. Gate C-17 emptied as the next flight's passengers began boarding. Everything was aggressively normal. Emma started walking toward the main terminal, her small rolling suitcase clicking rhythmically behind her. She'd catch the crew shuttle back to the airport hotel, get some sleep, fly back to New York tomorrow. This was all just... She saw them. The 2 men from economy, 23C and 24D, were standing near a coffee kiosk about 50 yards ahead. They weren't drinking coffee. They weren't looking at their phones. They were watching the crowd. Watching her. Emma's heart kicked into overdrive. She changed direction abruptly, heading toward the restrooms, her mind screaming that she was being paranoid, that this meant nothing, that lots of people stood around airports looking at other people. But when she glanced back, they were moving, following her trajectory, maintaining their distance but definitely tracking her. Oh God, he was telling the truth. Emma's flight instinct kicked in, the one she'd developed years ago in a different kind of danger. She needed somewhere public, somewhere safe, somewhere with security. Her hand reached for her phone, but who would she call? The police? And say what? 2 men are standing in an airport looking vaguely in my direction. Miss Rodriguez. She spun around, nearly dropping her phone. Anton Volkov stood 3 feet away, having materialized from the crowd like a ghost. Behind him were 2 large men in dark suits, the kind of men who made security look like an understatement. Come with me. Please. His voice was calm, but his eyes were serious. My car is waiting at passenger pickup. We need to leave. Now. I don't... Emma's voice shook. This is insane. I should call the police. And tell them what? That you feel unsafe because 2 men are in an airport? Anton's expression was almost sympathetic. By the time you convince anyone to take you seriously, they'll have followed you to your hotel. Or worse. How do I know you're not the threat? The question came out sharper than she intended, fear manifesting as anger. You don't. He acknowledged this with brutal honesty. But ask yourself, if I meant you harm, would I have warned you? Would I be standing here in public asking you to come willingly? He paused. You have good instincts, Miss Rodriguez. What are they telling you right now? Emma's instincts were screaming, but not about Anton Volkov. They were screaming about the 2 men who were now closer, weaving through the crowd with practiced efficiency. One of them had his hand inside his jacket. She made her decision. Okay, let's go. Relief flickered across Anton's face. Stay close to me. Dmitri, Alexei, positions. The 2 large men flanked them immediately, forming a protective barrier. They moved through the terminal quickly but without running. Nothing that would draw attention. Emma's mind noted details frantically. Anton's hand at her elbow, guiding but not forcing. The way Dmitri's eyes constantly scanned the crowd. The slight bulge under Alexei's jacket that suggested a weapon. This was really happening. This was actually real. They emerged into Miami's brutal afternoon heat. The air hit Emma like a physical force, humid, thick, carrying the scent of jet fuel and exhaust. A black SUV with tinted windows idled at the curb, illegal but clearly unconcerned with parking enforcement. Get in. Anton opened the back door. Emma hesitated for one final moment. Every warning her mother had ever given her about strangers screaming in her head. Then she saw them. The 2 men from the plane, now joined by 3 others, standing near the taxi line. One was speaking urgently into a phone. Another was staring directly at her. She got in the SUV. Anton slid in beside her. Dmitri took the driver's seat. Alexei, the passenger side. Before Emma's door had even closed fully, they were moving, pulling away from the curb with practiced speed that somehow didn't quite become reckless. "Seatbelt," Anton said quietly. Emma fumbled with the buckle, her hands shaking. Through the tinted rear window, she watched the terminal recede. The 5 men were still visible, standing in a cluster, watching them leave. One raised a phone, clearly photographing the license plate. "They got the plate," Alexei said in accented English. "It doesn't matter, this vehicle isn't registered to me." Anton's voice was calm, almost conversational. He pulled out his phone and began typing rapidly. Emma found her voice. "What the hell is happening? Who were those people? What do they want?" "The Constantine faction, their rival. Organization. They've been trying to move into my territory for the past 6 months." Anton didn't look up from his phone. The poisoning attempt was bold. "It means they have someone inside my operation." "Your operation?" Emma's laugh was half hysterical. "You really are. I'm actually exactly what I told you I was." He met her eyes then, and she saw something unexpected there. Not threat, but a kind of weary honesty. "My name is Anton Volkov. I was born in St. Petersburg. Came to America when I was 12. I run what some people call an organization. Import-export primarily. Some legitimate, some less so." "You mean you're a criminal?" She needed to say it plainly. "I mean I operate in gray areas that men in expensive suits have deemed illegal, while they do essentially the same things through different channels." He shrugged. "But yes, if you want the simple version, I'm a criminal. A successful one, which is why people like the Constantines want me dead." The SUV merged onto the highway, heading north. Miami's skyline glittered in the distance. Glass towers and palm trees and the promise of beaches and normalcy that might as well have been on another planet. "Where are we going?" Emma tried to keep her voice steady. "Coconut Grove. I have a property there. Secure, private. You'll be safe while we sort this out." "Sort this out?" "I don't want to sort anything out. I want to go back to my hotel, catch my flight tomorrow, and forget this ever happened." "That's not an option anymore." Anton's voice was gentle but implacable. "Those men saw you help me. They saw me speak to you privately after landing. By now they've identified you. Your name was on the manifest, and it won't take them long to find your address in New York." Emma's blood ran cold. "My address?" "Emma Rodriguez, age 32, residing at 447 Atlantic Avenue, Brooklyn. Apartment 3B. You've worked for American Airlines for 8 years. You graduated from Queens College with a degree in hospitality management. Your parents are deceased. You have a roommate named Sarah Chen, and you're 3 months behind on your student loans." She stared at him in horror. "How do you investigated me." "I investigate everyone who gets close to me. It's how I've stayed alive this long." He pocketed his phone. "The Constantines will do the same investigation. Probably already have. They're thorough. So what? I'm just... What? A prisoner? Collateral damage? You're under my protection." Anton's jaw tightened. "I don't abandon people who help me, Miss Rodriguez. You saved my life, whether you meant to or not. That creates an obligation. I didn't ask for your obligation. I didn't ask for any of this." "I know." His voice softened. "And I'm sorry. Truly. You showed me a simple kindness, and now your life is complicated. That's not fair. But fair doesn't matter right now. Survival matters." Emma turned away, staring out the window at Miami sliding past. Luxury cars, Art Deco buildings, people living their normal lives without mafia bosses and poisoning attempts and black SUVs with armed guards. She wanted to scream, to demand they let her out, to wake up and discover this was all some stress-induced nightmare. Instead, she asked the only question that mattered. "How long? How long what? How long until I can go home? Until this is over?" Anton was quiet for a moment. "I have people investigating the leak in my organization. Once we identify who gave the Constantines my flight information, we can address the threat. A week, maybe 2. "A week?" Emma's voice cracked. "I'm supposed to just disappear for a week? I have flights scheduled. I have a roommate who'll worry. I have a life. Call your roommate. Tell her you're taking some personal time. Tell her you met someone. You're extending your Miami stay. Whatever you need to say to keep her from worrying." He paused. "As for your flights, I'll handle that. You'll be compensated for lost wages." "I don't want your money." The anger felt good, better than the fear. I want my normal, boring life back. I understand that, and I'll give it back to you as soon as possible. Anton's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression hardening. Dmitri, we have a tale. 2 cars back, gray sedan. Emma's heart lurched. She turned to look, but Anton caught her arm. Don't. They already know we've seen them. No need to confirm it. What do we do? Dmitri asked, his accent thicker than Anton's. Lose them. Carefully. No attention. What followed was the longest 10 minutes of Emma's life. The SUV wove through traffic with disturbing skill, making turns that seemed random, but clearly weren't. At one point, they cut through a shopping center parking lot, emerging on a different street entirely. Emma watched the mirrors, her stomach churning, until Alexei finally grunted. Clear. Anton nodded. Good. Take the scenic route to the house anyway. Make sure. The scenic route took them through Coral Gables, past elaborate Spanish-style mansions and perfectly manicured lawns. Emma barely saw any of it. Her mind was stuck on the fact that people had followed them, actually followed them like something out of a movie. Her phone rang. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. Answer it, Anton said. Act normal. Don't mention me or what's happening. Just tell her you're staying in Miami for a few days. Emma answered with shaking hands. Hey, Sarah. Emma. Hey, just checking in. You land okay? Yeah, flight was fine. Listen, She swallowed hard. I'm actually going to stay in Miami for a bit. Personal time. Maybe a week. Really? That's so unlike you. Sarah sounded delighted. Good for you. You never take time off. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. Just needed a break. The lie tasted bitter. Well, enjoy. Send pictures of the beach. Love you. Love you too. Emma ended the call and immediately felt the weight of the deception. She'd just lied to her best friend, because a mafia boss had told her to. The SUV turned into a gated community, Dmitri entering a code that opened high wrought iron gates. The houses beyond were stunning, mansion after mansion, each more impressive than the last. They pulled up to a Spanish revival estate overlooking Biscayne Bay, all white stucco and red tile roof and elaborate landscaping. We're here, Anton said unnecessarily. Emma stepped out into the humid evening air, staring at the mansion. This is yours? One of several properties. This one is registered to a shell corporation. Clean, untraceable. He gestured toward the entrance. Come inside. You're safe here. Safe. The word felt like a joke. Emma had been safe 12 hours ago in Brooklyn. Now she was standing in front of a mansion owned by a criminal, having been followed by other criminals, her entire life upended by a bottle of heart medication. But what choice did she have? She followed Anton Volkov into the mansion, the heavy door closing behind her with a finality that made her chest tight. Somewhere in Miami, dangerous men were looking for her, and the only thing standing between her and them was the very man who'd brought this chaos into her life. This was insane. This was her reality now, and there was no going back. The interior of Anton's mansion was nothing like Emma expected. She'd imagined something ostentatious, gold fixtures, animal heads on walls, the kind of gaudy wealth she'd seen in mob movies. Instead, she found herself in a space of refined elegance, marble floors and soft cream, contemporary art on white walls, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the bay's dark waters. It was beautiful in a way that made her uncomfortable, because it made Anton Volkov seem less like a villain and more like a person with taste. The guest room is upstairs, second door on the right. Anton moved through the foyer with easy familiarity, dropping his messenger bag on a console table. You'll find everything you need, toiletries, towels. There should be clothes in the closet that will fit you. Emma stopped walking. You keep women's clothes in your guest room? My sister stays here sometimes. You're about her size. He caught her expression and almost smiled. I'm not a monster, Miss Rodriguez. I don't kidnap women and keep a wardrobe ready. You did kind of kidnap me. I extracted you from a dangerous situation. There's a difference. He checked his phone again. He did that constantly, she'd noticed. Are you hungry? Rosa left food in the kitchen. I can have her come back if you need anything else. Rosa, my housekeeper. She's been with me for 10 years, completely trustworthy. He pocketed the phone. You should eat something. It's been a long day. Emma wanted to argue, to maintain her anger because it felt safer than acknowledging how scared she actually was. But her stomach betrayed her with an audible growl. She hadn't eaten since the airline's sad crew breakfast at dawn. Fine. Food. Then I want answers. Real ones. Anton nodded. Fair enough. The kitchen was massive. Commercial-grade appliances, granite countertops, a center island big enough to perform surgery on. Anton opened the refrigerator and pulled out covered dishes, moving with surprising competence. Within minutes, he'd assembled a meal. Cuban-style roasted chicken, black beans and rice, fried plantains, a simple salad. They ate at the island, the silence stretching uncomfortably. Emma focused on her plate, trying not to think about the surreality of having dinner with a criminal in his luxury mansion, while people who wanted her dead roamed Miami's streets. You're a good observer, Anton said finally. On the plane, you noticed I'd dropped the medication before most people would have registered it happened. It's my job to notice things. Passengers in distress, potential problems, security concerns. She stabbed at a plantain. Apparently I'm not as good at it as I thought since I didn't notice I was serving a mafia boss. Why would you? I don't exactly announce it. He studied her with those dark, assessing eyes. What made you become a flight attendant? What made you become a criminal? She shot back. I asked first. Emma set down her fork. If she was trapped here, she might as well understand who she was trapped with. I was in a bad relationship. The kind where you wake up one day and realize you've become someone you don't recognize. Someone small and scared. I needed to leave. Needed to do something that meant freedom. She met his gaze. Flying felt like the most literal interpretation of escape I could find. Anton nodded slowly. My mother was a flight attendant. Aeroflot, back in the Soviet Union. She brought my father and me to America when I was 12. Thought we'd have a better life. His expression darkened. She was wrong. My father drank himself to death within 2 years. She worked 3 jobs trying to keep us afloat. When I was 15, she had a heart attack in the middle of a flight to Los Angeles. Died in the aisle while passengers stepped over her to get their luggage. Emma felt something shift in her chest. An unwanted empathy. I'm sorry. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you so you understand why I do what I do. He leaned back. The system failed her. She followed all the rules, worked herself to death, and the system let her die like she was nothing. So I decided I'd make my own rules, build my own system, one where people like my mother would be protected. By becoming a criminal, by becoming powerful enough that the rules don't apply to me the way they applied to her. He stood, began clearing the plates. I know how that sounds. I'm not asking you to approve. Emma watched him wash dishes, something else that didn't fit her mental image. The heart medication, is it real or was that part of the act? It's real. Inherited from my mother, apparently. Irregular heartbeat, nothing immediately dangerous if managed properly. He dried his hands. Which is why poisoning it was such an elegant plan. My death would have looked natural. Just another middle-aged man with a bad heart. But I grabbed the real bottle. The one that fell. Yes. And the poisoned one remained in my pocket until I could have it analyzed. He pulled out a small orange prescription bottle, identical to the one she'd retrieved. This one would have killed me within hours. The toxicology report says it was quite sophisticated. Mimics the symptoms of cardiac arrest. Emma's hands trembled slightly. She'd been inches away from handing him death instead of life. The randomness of it was terrifying. You should rest, Anton said, noting her pallor. Tomorrow we'll work on identifying the leak in my organization. The sooner we do that, the sooner you can return to your life. Just like that? I'm supposed to sleep while people want to kill me? They don't want to kill you, Miss Rodriguez. They want to use you. As leverage, as a message, as proof of my weakness. That's why you're safest here, where they can't reach you. He moved toward the kitchen door. Dmitri is stationed outside, Alexei at the gate. The security system is military grade. No one is getting in here without me knowing. Emma stood, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had sustained her since the plane was draining away, leaving her hollow. Why are you helping me? Really? You said you don't abandon people who help you, but that seems like sentiment you couldn't afford in your line of work. Anton paused in the doorway. My mother used to say that we're defined by how we treat people who can't help us back. You were kind to me when you had no reason to be, when I was nothing but another anonymous passenger. That matters. He looked at her directly. And yes, perhaps I can't afford sentiment, but perhaps that's exactly why I need to afford it. To remember I'm still human. He left before she could respond. Emma made her way upstairs, found the guest room exactly where he'd said. It was spacious and comfortable, decorated in soft blues and whites, with French doors opening onto a balcony overlooking the bay. The promised clothes were in the closet. Casual pieces, all high quality, all approximately her size. She showered, letting the hot water wash away the day's fear and confusion. In the mirror afterward, she looked like herself, but different somehow. Eyes wider, expression more alert, like she'd been sleeping for years and had suddenly woken up. The bed was ridiculously comfortable. Emma lay in the darkness, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the house settling, the distant sound of waves. Her phone sat on the nightstand, full of normal things. Emails from the airline, a text from Jessica asking if she'd made it to her hotel, a reminder about bills due next week. Her normal life, still existing in digital form even as the reality crumbled. She must have slept, because she woke to sunlight streaming through the French doors and the smell of coffee wafting up from downstairs. For one blissful moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back, and her stomach knotted. The clothes in the closet fit perfectly. Emma chose jeans and a simple white linen shirt, trying not to think about Anton's sister and whether she'd mind a stranger wearing her things. Downstairs, she followed the coffee scent to a terrace overlooking the bay. A woman sat at the outdoor table, early 40s, dark hair in an elegant updo, wearing a tailored pantsuit that screamed expensive. She looked up as Emma approached, her eyes, so similar to Anton's, assessing and sharp. "You must be Emma. I'm Irina Volkov, Anton's sister." Her English was perfect, barely accented. "Sit. Have coffee. You look like you need it." Emma sat warily. "He told you about me?" "Anton tells me everything. We're partners in the family business." Irina poured coffee with practiced grace. "He also told me you saved his life with a simple act of kindness. That's unusual in our world. I'm a flight attendant. Being kind to passengers is literally my job description. And yet most people wouldn't notice a dropped medication bottle during turbulence. Most wouldn't retrieve it discreetly." Irina studied her over her coffee cup. "My brother doesn't involve outsiders in our affairs. The fact that he brought you here, that he's protecting you, that's significant. He said I'm a liability to your enemies, that's why I'm here." Partially true, but he could have sent you to any safe house with guards. Instead, he brought you to his private residence. That tells me something about how he sees you. Irina smiled slightly. "Don't worry, I'm not suggesting romance. Anton is far too pragmatic for that. But he respects you. That's rarer." Emma didn't know what to say to that. She sipped her coffee, excellent of course, and watched the morning light play across the bay. Boats drifted past, people enjoying a normal Tuesday in Miami. The contrast between that world and this one felt insurmountable. "He wants to use me," Emma said finally, "to find whoever betrayed him." "Yes, you're good at reading people." He noticed that immediately. "It's a valuable skill." Irina leaned forward. "Here's what you need to understand about my brother, Emma. He was 15 when our mother died. 15 years old, suddenly responsible for a 12-year-old sister in a country where we barely spoke the language. He did what he had to do to keep us alive. Some of those things were illegal, some were morally questionable. But he never stopped being the boy who cried at our mother's funeral and promised her he'd make something of himself." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're judging him. I can see it in your eyes. You think he's a monster who happens to have good manners." Irina's expression hardened. "He's not. He's a man who built an empire from nothing, because the alternative was watching his sister starve. He's ruthless when he needs to be, yes, but he's also the most loyal person I've ever known. If he says he'll protect you, he will, even at cost to himself. That's supposed to make me feel better? That I'm under the protection of a loyal criminal? It's supposed to help you survive the next few days with less fear." Irina stood. "Anton will be here soon. He's meeting with Victor to discuss strategy. You'll probably meet the suspects, Sergei, Leonid, and Katya. One of them betrayed us. Your job is to figure out which one. And if I can't, then we'll find another way. But I think you can." Irina headed toward the door, paused. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you were on that flight. My brother is brilliant and powerful, but he's also been alone for a very long time. It's nice to see him remember what kindness looks like." She left Emma alone with her coffee and her thoughts. The bay sparkled in the morning sun, beautiful and indifferent. Somewhere in Miami, people were trying to kill her, and somehow, Her only allies were a mafia boss and his equally criminal sister. Emma laughed, slightly hysterical but genuine. A week ago, her biggest stress was deciding whether to switch to an earlier shift rotation. Now she was sitting in a mansion, drinking excellent coffee, preparing to identify a traitor in a criminal organization. Her phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Hope you're having fun in Miami. Send beach pics." Emma stared at the message. Her normal life, demanding proof of the lie she'd told. She opened the camera, took a selfie with the bay in the background, sent it with a caption, "Needed this break. Love you." The performance of normalcy while her world burned. Anton appeared in the terrace doorway, changed into casual clothes, dark jeans, black t-shirt. Without the suit, he looked younger, less intimidating, but his eyes still held that constant watchfulness. "You met Irina." "I did. She's protective of you. We're protective of each other. It's all we have." He sat across from her. "Victor is arriving in an hour with the suspects." "Are you ready? To identify a traitor in a mafia organization? Sure. I do that every Tuesday." Emma's sarcasm was defensive, but Anton smiled slightly. "Just do what you do on planes. Watch. Listen. Trust your instincts." He paused. "And Emma, thank you for trying. You didn't have to agree to help. You didn't really give me a choice. I gave you the choice to trust me or take your chances alone. You chose trust. That means something." Emma met his eyes. Dark, serious, and surprisingly honest. "Don't make me regret it. I'll do my best." An hour later, the meeting began. 3 people arrived. Sergei, nervous and sweating despite the air conditioning. Leonid, cold-eyed and silent. Katya, smooth and confident with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. One of them had betrayed Anton, had provided his flight information to people who wanted him dead. Emma watched them all, her flight attendant's instincts on high alert. And she began to see the truth. The tension in Anton's study was suffocating. Emma sat in the corner, deliberately positioned to observe without appearing threatening. Just another piece of furniture, another detail the 3 suspects might overlook while they focused on Anton. Sergei fidgeted constantly, adjusting his collar, checking his phone, his knee bouncing under the table. He was mid-40s, overweight, with the nervous energy of someone perpetually on edge. Emma's flight attendant instincts read him as anxious but not deceptive, just a man uncomfortable being scrutinized. Leonid sat perfectly still, his scarred hands folded on the table. Late 50s, military bearing, eyes that revealed nothing. He'd killed people. Emma knew this with absolute certainty, though she couldn't have explained how. But killers and traitors weren't always the same thing. Katya was the most polished, early 30s, beautiful in a calculated way, designer clothes and perfect makeup. She smiled easily, made eye contact, projected confidence. Too much confidence, perhaps. Emma had seen that before in passengers who complained loudest about minor inconveniences, overcompensation masking something else. "Let's be clear," Anton said, his voice carrying quiet authority. "Someone in this room provided information to the Constantine faction. My flight details, my schedule. That information was used in an assassination attempt that nearly succeeded." Sergei paled. "Anton, I swear I would never." "Then you have nothing to worry about." Anton's gaze swept across all 3. "Victor has examined financial records, communications, movements. The evidence points to this room. One of you 3. "This is insulting," Katya said smoothly. "We've all served you for years, loyally. And now, because of one incident, we're suspects?" "One incident?" Irina's voice was ice from her position by the window. "Someone tried to murder my brother. That's not an incident. It's betrayal." Emma watched Katya's micro-expressions. The woman's pupils had dilated when Anton mentioned the flight details, a physiological response to stress or recognition. Her fingers had tensed slightly when he said, "assassination attempt." Small things, subtle things, but they added up. "Walk me through your day before the flight," Anton said to Sergei. "Every detail." Sergei stammered through his account. Morning meeting about shipment schedules, lunch with a client, routine financial reviews. His nervousness was consistent throughout, no spikes that suggested deception. Emma had seen guilty passengers. They usually got calmer when lying, not more anxious. Sergei was just naturally nervous. Leonid's account was sparse, military precise. Security assessments, personnel reviews, checking Anton's travel arrangements. His voice never wavered, his expression never changed. But when Anton mentioned the poisoned medication, Leonid's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Anger, Emma thought. Protective instinct, not guilt. Katya spoke with practiced ease about logistics coordination, confirming Anton's hotel in Miami, arranging ground transportation. I even upgraded your Miami reservation to an ocean view suite, she added with a smile. Wanted you to have a comfortable stay. There, that calculated warmth, the emphasis on her thoughtfulness. Emma had seen it 1,000 times in manipulative passengers, using apparent kindness as armor. Emma, Anton said suddenly, making her start. You've been observing. What's your assessment? 3 pairs of eyes turned to her. Sergei looked confused. Leonid's gaze was flat, analytical. Katya's smile remained in place, but something cold flickered behind it. Emma's mouth went dry. She was a flight attendant, not an investigator, but Anton was looking at her with complete confidence, as if her opinion mattered, as if he actually trusted her judgment. I think, Emma chose her words carefully. Sergei is nervous because he's always nervous. That's his baseline. Leonid is angry. Protective anger, not defensive. He's upset someone got close enough to hurt you. She paused. Katya is performing. Everything she said has been designed to showcase her loyalty, her value. It's too smooth, too perfect. The room went silent. Katya's smile never faltered, but her eyes turned to flint. That's quite an accusation from someone who's known us for all of an hour, Katya said pleasantly. Based on what exactly? Your extensive experience reading criminal conspiracies? Based on reading people who are lying, Emma countered. I've dealt with passengers trying to sneak extra luggage, hide contraband, scam upgrades. You learn to spot the performance. And you're performing. Anton, this is ridiculous. Katya turned to him. You're going to believe this outsider over someone who's been with you for 5 years? Victor, Anton said quietly. Show them. Victor opened his laptop, turned it to face the table. Bank statements, offshore accounts, communication logs. 3 days before Anton's flight, Katya received a deposit of $50,000 from a shell company traced to Constantine interests. Phone records show encrypted calls to known Constantine associates. Katya's performance cracked. The pleasant mask slipped, revealing something harder underneath. You have no idea what it's like, she said, voice tight. Working for you, being the only woman in your inner circle. Always having to prove myself twice as hard while you and Victor make the real decisions. The Constantines offered me respect. Real partnership, not token representation. I gave you opportunity, Anton said, his voice dangerously soft. I trusted you with sensitive information. I valued your skills. You patronized me. All of you did. Katya stood abruptly. So yes, I told them about your flight. I told them about your medication. I thought I was making a strategic move into real power. I didn't expect. She glanced at Emma. I didn't expect her. The confession hung in the air. Emma felt sick. Her random act of kindness had unraveled someone's carefully laid plans. If she'd been slower, less observant, Anton would be dead, and Katya would have gotten away with it. What happens now? Sergei asked, his voice shaking. Anton studied Katya for a long moment. Emma saw something complicated in his expression. Disappointment, anger, but also a kind of weary resignation. You have 24 hours to leave Miami. Take whatever you can carry. I'll wire $50,000 to a clean account, the money you would have earned if you'd stayed loyal. After that, if you're still in my city or if you contact the Constantines, there will be consequences. Katya stared at him. You're letting me go? I'm honoring 5 years of service before you betrayed me. Consider it a severance package. Anton's voice hardened. But if you cross me again, Katya, there won't be mercy a second time. Am I clear? She nodded slowly, something like surprise crossing her features. Clear. Dmitri escorted her out. The remaining tension dissipated slightly. Sergei slumped in relief. Leonid's expression never changed, but he inclined his head toward Emma. Acknowledgement, perhaps even respect. The Constantines will know we've identified their source, Victor said. They'll need to make a move soon. Saving face or cutting losses. Let them come, Anton said. I'm tired of games. Time to end this. The meeting dispersed. Emma found herself alone with Anton in the study, the Miami afternoon sun slanting through the windows. "You were right," he said simply. "About Katya. Thank you. I've been wrong before. About people, about situations." Emma moved to the window, watching the bay. "What if I'd been wrong this time? Then we would have investigated further. But you weren't wrong." He joined her at the window. "You have good instincts, Emma Rodriguez. Better than most people who've been in this life for years." "I don't want to be in this life." She turned to face him. "I want my boring routine back. My small apartment and predictable flights and normal problems like whether to get a salad or a sandwich for lunch." "I know." His expression was genuinely sympathetic. "And I'm going to give that back to you. But first, we need to deal with the Constantines. As long as they see you as leverage against me, you're not safe. So what's your plan?" "A meeting. Neutral ground. Victor's arranging it now. Tomorrow night, a warehouse in Wynwood. We negotiate terms, establish boundaries, or..." He didn't finish the sentence. "Or what? Or we settle this more permanently." Anton's face hardened. "I'd prefer to avoid war. It's expensive, messy, bad for business. But I won't allow them to keep threatening people under my protection." That night, Emma barely slept. She kept thinking about Katya, about betrayal and opportunity, and the thin lines people crossed when they felt undervalued. She thought about Anton, letting his traitor go with money and mercy when he could have chosen violence. The complexity of it troubled her more than simple villainy would have. The next evening arrived too quickly. Emma watched from the terrace as black SUVs gathered in the driveway. Anton emerged dressed for war. Expensive suit, cold expression, flanked by Dmitri and Alexei. He looked every inch the dangerous man he was. "You should stay here," Irina said, appearing beside her. "This isn't your fight. He's fighting it because of me. Because I helped him." Emma turned to face her. "I can't just hide while people risk their lives." "You can, and you should. That's the smart play." "When has anything about this situation been smart?" Emma headed for the door. "I'm going." She made it to the lead SUV before Anton stopped her. "Absolutely not. I wasn't asking permission." "Emma, this is dangerous. These are violent men negotiating territory. If things go wrong, then I want to be there. I want to understand what my kindness cost." She met his eyes. "Please, I need to see this through." Something shifted in his expression. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded reluctantly. "Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say. If I tell you to run, you run. Understood?" "Understood." The warehouse in Wynwood was exactly what Emma expected. Concrete and shadows and the smell of old machinery. Victor had already secured the perimeter. Inside, in a cleared space under harsh industrial lights, two groups faced each other like armies before battle. Anton's people, Victor, Dmitri, Alexei, several others Emma didn't recognize. All armed, all alert. The Constantines, an older man at the center, gray hair, expensive suit, eyes like chips of ice. His people flanked him, equally dangerous, equally ready. Emma stayed close to Anton as they approached. Her heart hammered, but she kept her breathing steady. Just another difficult situation. Just another tense moment to manage. "Volkov," the older man said. His accent was thicker than Anton's. "You requested this meeting." "Constantine." Anton's voice was level. "Your attempt on my life failed. Your mole has been removed. Your position in Miami is untenable. I'm offering you one chance to negotiate terms." "Terms?" Constantine laughed. "You think you dictate terms to me? I've been in this city longer than you've been alive, boy. And yet your reach is shrinking while mine grows. The families respect power, not nostalgia." Anton's expression never wavered. "I'm offering you legitimate partnership in select ventures. Equal profit sharing, clear territorial boundaries. Or we can have war. Your choice. War would be costly for both of us. I'm younger, I can afford the cost better than you can." The tension ratcheted higher. Men's hands moved closer to weapons. Emma felt the violence hovering like electricity before a storm. "Wait." Her voice surprised her as much as anyone else. "Just wait a second." Every eye turned to her. Anton tensed. Constantine's cold gaze assessed her like she was an insect. "And who is this?" Constantine asked. "The famous flight attendant? The one who saved your life?" "I'm no one. Emma said, stepping forward despite Anton's warning hand on her arm. I'm just someone who doesn't understand why grown men would rather kill each other than find a solution that lets everyone walk away. You understand nothing of our world, little girl. Maybe not, but I understand people, and I see two proud men who both want the same things: respect, security, success. You don't actually want war. You want to save face. Both of you. She looked between them. So find a way to both win. The silence stretched. Then, impossibly, Konstantin smiled. Your woman has courage, Volkov. Or stupidity. Perhaps both. She's not my woman. She's someone I owe a debt to. Anton's voice remained controlled. And she has a point. Pride is expensive. Let's discuss terms. What followed was an hour of tense negotiation. Territorial divisions, profit percentages, agreements about communication and dispute resolution. Emma watched it all with growing understanding. This wasn't that different from negotiating passenger conflicts on overcrowded flights. Everyone wanted to feel heard, respected, victorious in some way. Finally, they shook hands. Not friendship, not trust, but détente. Enough. As they left, Konstantin called out, Miss Rodriguez, you're either very brave or very foolish. I hope you survive long enough to determine which. Thank you, Emma said, meaning it. I hope the same for everyone. The drive back to Coconut Grove was quiet. Anton sat beside her, staring out the window at Miami's lights. You shouldn't have spoken, he said finally. That was incredibly risky. But it worked. This time. Next time it might get you killed. He turned to face her. You need to understand. This world doesn't value kindness the way you do. It values power, strength, the willingness to do violence. And yet you let Katya go with money. You negotiated peace instead of war. Maybe you value kindness more than you think. Anton had no response to that. 2 days later, Emma stood in Miami International Airport back in her uniform, preparing for her return flight to New York. Anton had arranged everything. The time off approved, her record clean, no questions asked. He'd come to see her off, breaking his own security protocols. They stood near the crew entrance, an odd pair, the Mafia Boss and the flight attendant. I had Victor compile a file, Anton said, handing her a flash drive. Everything about the Konstantins, the attempt, your involvement. Keep it somewhere safe. Insurance, in case you ever need it. You think I'll need insurance against you? Against anyone, including me if necessary. He smiled slightly. I told you, I don't abandon people who help me, but I also don't assume they trust me blindly. Emma pocketed the drive. What happens now? For you? I continue building my empire. I honor the agreement with Konstantin until one of us breaks it. I remember that showing mercy sometimes matters. He paused. What about you? I go back to my life. Try to forget this ever happened. Will you? Forget? Emma considered. No, probably not. I think I'm different now. I see things differently. She met his eyes. You're not what I expected, Anton Volkov. Neither are you, Emma Rodriguez. He extended his hand formally. Thank you. For everything. She shook it, felt the calluses on his palm, saw the complexity in his eyes. Stay alive. Take your medication. I will. Fly safe. Emma walked toward security, toward her gate, toward her normal life. But she kept the flash drive in her pocket along with a new phone Anton had given her. A secure line in case she ever needed it. 3 weeks later, she was working a flight to Los Angeles. A man in first class was reading Crime and Punishment. Emma smiled, served him coffee, and for just a moment remembered what it felt like to save someone's life with nothing but simple kindness. Her phone buzzed later that night. A text from an unknown number that she somehow knew was Anton. How's the view from up there? She replied. Peaceful, for now. Another text. If you ever need anything at all. Emma looked out her apartment window at Brooklyn's lights. I know. Same here. Stay safe, Anton. She'd saved a mafia boss. He'd protected her when she became collateral damage. They'd both changed each other in ways neither had anticipated. And somehow, impossibly, that strange intersection of kindness and violence had given them both something they'd needed. Proof that human connection mattered, even in the darkest places. Emma went to bed thinking about routine flights and extraordinary passengers, about how one small moment could change everything, about how she'd never look at seat 7A the same way again. And somewhere in Miami, Anton Volkov sat in his mansion overlooking the bay, thinking about a flight attendant who'd reminded him what it meant to be human. Both of them different now, both of them alive, both of them understanding that sometimes, in the most unexpected moments, we save each other.